Hi everyone and welcome to lesson 4, the final lesson on the year 7 topic Fizz and Pop. As with the other lessons, you will need a pen and some paper, so if you do not have any in front of you, please go and find them now and pause the video. Today's lesson is on metals, metal carbonates and gas tests. And today's challenge is to know the different gas tests, and Aspire is to describe the reactions of metals and metal carbonates with acids. So a quick 6 recap challenge starter for you now. So question number 1, what will the pH of something yellow be? Question number 2, what will the pH of something purple be? Question number 3, what pH is water? Question number 4, what vegetable can we use as an indicator? Question 5, when an acid reacts with an alkali, what does this reaction produce? And question 6, what is this reaction called? I'm going to give you 4 minutes to answer these questions. Off you go. So the answers to the questions that you should have. Question number 1, what will the pH of something yellow be? It would be pH 6. Please mark these as we go through. Question number 2, what will the pH of something purple be? It would be pH 14. Question number 3, what pH is water? It is pH of 7. Question number 4, what vegetable can we use as an indicator? That is red cabbage. Question 5, when an acid reacts with an alkali, what does the reaction produce? And it's always salt and water. And question 6, what is this reaction called? It's called neutralization. So just a quick recap from what we have learnt previously in this topic are the rules for naming salts. Now, the second part of the salt word always comes from the acid. So hydrochloric acid will always make a chloride salt, sulfuric acid will always make a sulfate salt, and nitric acid will always make a nitrate salt. And if you remember, the first part of the salt word comes from the alkali or base, and it's always the first word of whatever that substance is. So if we look at the examples below, so when we add an acid and a base together, it always gives us salt and water. So if we have hydrochloric acid, that is also going to make us a chloride salt. And the first part of the salt word comes from the first word of the alkali, which is sodium. So using sodium hydroxide in this case, so it's going to produce as sodium chloride and water. The next one is sulfuric acid, so therefore we are going to produce a sulfate salt. So the second word of the salt is sulfate, and we are reacting it with the base copper oxide, and the first word of that base is copper. So the salt produced will be copper sulfate plus water. And then the third example on here is nitric acid. So nitric acid will make us a nitrate salt. And the word magnesium comes from the first word of the base magnesium oxide, so it will give us magnesium nitrate and water. So what I would like you to do now is let's just have a little bit of a practice and a bit of a recap on how we name salts from a neutralization reaction. So the first one I'd like you to have a go at is sulfuric acid plus copper oxide gives copper something plus water. Number 2 is hydrochloric acid plus potassium hydroxide gives something chloride plus water. The third one is nitric acid plus something something gives sodium nitrate plus water. Question number 4, sulfuric acid plus magnesium oxide gives something something plus water. Question 5, something acid plus sodium oxide gives sodium chloride plus water. And question 6, nitric acid plus iron oxide gives something nitrate plus blank. So what I would like you to do is have a go at these. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to complete this task. Off you go. Okay guys, let's go through the answers then. Please get a pen so that you can mark them. Question number 1, sulfuric acid plus copper oxide will give us copper sulfate plus water. Obviously we've got sulfuric acid there, so that will give us a sulfate salt, where the second word comes from, and the word copper comes from the first word of the base, which is copper oxide. Next one, hydrochloric acid plus potassium hydroxide will give us potassium chloride plus water. Again, the chloride part comes from the hydrochloric acid and the potassium comes from the potassium hydroxide. Question number 3, nitric acid plus sodium oxide will give us sodium nitrate plus water. Again, we have nitric acid, so that will be a nitrate salt, and the first word sodium comes from the first word of the base. Question 4, sulfuric acid plus magnesium oxide gives us magnesium sulfate plus water. Again, sulfuric acid produces us a sulfate salt, and the word magnesium obviously comes from the first word of the base there, which is magnesium oxide. Question 5, hydrochloric acid plus sodium oxide gives us sodium chloride plus water. So the hydrochloric acid makes us the chloride salt. The word sodium comes obviously from the first word of the base, which is sodium oxide. And question 6, nitric acid plus iron oxide gives us iron nitrate plus water. So again, nitric acid makes a nitrate salt, and the word iron comes from the base iron oxide. So let's move on now to a new reaction. So far we've looked at acids plus alkalis, gives us salt plus water. This is now a reaction with acid plus a metal, and this gives us salt, and we name them exactly the same way we've already learnt, but this time it doesn't produce water anymore, it produces hydrogen gas. So some examples below. So we have hydrochloric acid, so again that will give us a chloride salt, in which it does, and the first word of the salt comes from the metal word, so it's just sodium in this first case, plus hydrogen. Question number 2, or example number 2, sulfuric acid will give us a sulfate salt, and obviously copper, the word copper comes from the copper itself, and plus hydrogen again, and nitric acid gives us a nitrate salt, and obviously magnesium comes from the metal plus hydrogen again. So what we're going to do now is have a little practice at some of these. So what I would like you to do is to complete these examples for me. So the first one, we have sulfuric acid plus zinc gives zinc blank plus blank. Question number 2, hydrochloric acid plus iron gives something chloride plus hydrogen. Question number 3, nitric acid plus blank gives sodium nitrate plus hydrogen. Question number 4, sulfuric acid plus magnesium gives blank blank plus hydrogen. Question number 5, something acid gives copper, plus copper gives copper chloride plus hydrogen. And question 6, nitric acid plus calcium gives something nitrate plus something. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to complete these reactions of metals with acid. Off you go. So let's go through the answers to these reactions of metals with acids. Please have a pen so that you can mark them. So sulfuric acid plus zinc will give us zinc sulfate plus hydrogen. Obviously the word sulfate comes from the sulfuric acid, and the zinc part obviously comes from the metal zinc. Question number 2, hydrochloric acid plus iron will give us iron chloride. Remember, the chloride salt comes from the hydrochloric acid, and the iron part will obviously come from the metal itself. Always plus hydrogen. The next one, question 3, nitric acid plus sodium gives sodium nitrate plus hydrogen. Again, nitric acid will give us a nitrate salt, and the sodium part is obviously coming from the metal again. Question 4, sulfuric acid plus magnesium will give us magnesium sulfate plus hydrogen. So again, the sulfate part will come from the sulfuric acid. The magnesium is obviously the metal that it's reacting with. We've then got hydrochloric acid plus copper will give us copper chloride plus hydrogen. Again, hydrochloric acid will give us the chloride part, and the copper has come from the metal. And the last one, nitric acid plus calcium gives us calcium nitrate plus hydrogen. Again, the calcium has come from the metal part, and the nitrate because it's reacting with nitric acid. The next reaction to introduce you to is the reaction of metal carbonates now with acids. So again, we get a salt and name them exactly the same as we've been learning to. We get water, and in this case, because we have a carbonate, we get carbon dioxide being produced. Now, anything that ends in 8 in chemistry means it contains oxygen, and obviously carbon dioxide means it has 2 oxygens. Di means 2 in chemistry. So we have 2 oxygens attached from that, to that carbon that is coming from the carbonate part. So if we just go through some examples here, so hydrochloric acid, again, we'll get a chloride salt, react with sodium carbonate. Again, the first word of the base there will give us the word sodium plus water plus carbon dioxide. Sulfuric acid will give us a sulfate salt. Again, the copper will come from the first word of the base, which is copper carbonate. So we'll get copper sulfate plus water plus carbon dioxide. And the last example, nitric acid, will obviously give us a nitrate salt. The magnesium part will come from the first word of the base, which is magnesium carbonate, and that will give us water and carbon dioxide also as products in this reaction. So now let's have a go at some examples. So we have here sulfuric acid plus magnesium carbonate will give us magnesium sulfate plus blank blank. Question number 2, hydrochloric acid plus zinc carbonate will give us something chloride plus water plus blank blank. Question 3, nitric acid plus blank blank will give us sodium nitrate plus water plus carbon dioxide. Question 4, sulfuric acid plus iron carbonate will give us blank blank plus water plus carbon dioxide. And question 5, something acid plus copper carbonate will give us copper chloride plus water plus carbon dioxide. So I'm going to give you 4 minutes to complete this task. Off you go. So let's go through the answers now and mark them. So the reaction of sulfuric acid plus magnesium carbonate will give us magnesium sulfate plus water plus carbon dioxide. Remember, carbon dioxide is a byproduct as well as water and magnesium sulfate of the reaction with an acid and a carbonate. Again, sulfuric acid will give us a sulfate salt, and the word magnesium will come from the first word of the base, which is magnesium carbonate. Question number 2, we have hydrochloric acid plus zinc carbonate will give us zinc chloride plus water plus carbon dioxide. Again, the chloride salt will be made from the hydrochloric acid, and the zinc part will obviously come from the first word of the base. The next one, nitric acid plus sodium carbonate gives sodium nitrate plus water plus carbon dioxide. Again, nitric acid will produce a nitrate salt. The word sodium is the first word of the base, so that's where we get sodium nitrate from. Question number 4, sulfuric acid plus iron carbonate will give us iron sulfate plus water plus carbon dioxide. Again, we've got sulfuric acid, so we'll make a sulfate salt, and the word iron comes from the first word of the base. And the last question is hydrochloric acid plus copper carbonate gives us copper chloride plus water plus carbon dioxide. Again, the hydrochloric acid will give us a chloride salt, and the copper comes from the first word of the base. So what we have just looked at during this lesson are some reactions where we are producing gases. So the two we've looked at today is hydrogen and carbon dioxide being formed. So the first one was where we reacted an acid with a metal, and that produced a salt plus hydrogen gas. And the second one was the reaction of an acid with a metal carbonate that gives us salt and water and carbon dioxide. And there is a test that we can do to test for carbon dioxide, which is now shown on the diagram on this slide. So if we bubble carbon dioxide through lime water, the lime water will go from clear to cloudy. So that is the test for carbon dioxide. The next one is the test for hydrogen gas. So this is the reaction of a metal plus acid, and it gives us a salt plus hydrogen. So this is where, if you have hydrogen being produced, if you put a lighted splint to it, like you see in the diagram, you will hear a very distinct squeaky pop. And the last one is the test for oxygen. Now, we've not actually done any reactions today that's produced oxygen gas, but obviously oxygen is a very common gas with carbon dioxide and with hydrogen. So this is one that you will need to know now, and you will still need to know when you get to your GCSE, because it could be on your GCSE exam. So the test for oxygen is where you have a glowing splint. Now, a glowing splint is when you blow it out and the end of it is still glowing. And then if you introduce the glowing splint to a place where you think you've produced oxygen gas, what it will do to that glowing splint, it will relight it again. So guys, you're now going to need a pen. Let's do a little quick quiz. So question number 1, what gas is detected using this method? So you have a glowing splint there. So what gas is detected using this method? 30 seconds. Okay, so the answer that you should have for this one is oxygen. So the next question, what gas is detected using this method? So this is bubbling through lime water and it is turning cloudy. So what gas is detected by this method? I'm going to give you 15 seconds, off you go. Okay, so hopefully you've got the right answer there, which is carbon dioxide. And the next question, what gas is detected using this method? So this is a lighted splint and a squeaky pop. So 15 seconds to write down what gas that you think is detected using this method. So hopefully guys, you've got the correct answer, which is hydrogen. So the summary notes for this lesson: the test for oxygen is it relights a glowing splint. The test for carbon dioxide is it turns lime water cloudy. The test for hydrogen is a lit splint, which will produce a squeaky pop. Next one is when a metal reacts with an acid, it always produces a salt and hydrogen. And when metal carbonates react with an acid, it always produces a salt water and carbon dioxide. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to copy down these summary notes. If you need any more time after that, then please complete the notes and pause the video.